goodness. I swear that's the longest walk I've ever taken in my life. Well, I'll take that back. Second longest walk. We'll talk about the first longest in a minute. My name is Mathew, and I'm an alcoholic. I have a sobriety date. It is, let me think, December 29th, 2011, I believe. And I have a sponsor who has a sponsor. I don't really know if it goes further than that. I haven't asked. I'll check into that, though, and get back to you. I was thinking, I thought before that we read too much before our meeting got started. I didn't get to hear the speaker talk for as long, and today was probably the quickest I've ever thought we've gone through the readings. I thought Ryan should have got slower readers. But I got asked to speak, and I was suggested early on that I shouldn't say no to AA whenever I get an opportunity to. So here I am, being very nervous. Let's see. I did a couple of things this week that I don't normally get to do, or I hadn't gotten to do before. I paid rent this week. I've been doing that for a while. That feels pretty good. Used to be if I was taking that much money out of my bank account in one go, I was like having a nervous breakdown, or I was about to be really good because I was going to the liquor store. But it feels good to be accountable to that, to pay into something, and to know that at least that's not something I'm taking from somebody else. I changed the oil in my car. I was pretty stoked about that. I bought the wrong filter. It was a whole fiasco. It took the whole day to get it done, but I was so proud of myself when I got done. But that was something that I couldn't have done. I just didn't have the patience or the time, or just didn't care. I figured if I left it long enough, my dad would start freaking out and he'd do it for me. So that was another good thing I enjoyed doing. I went to work all this week. I didn't lay out any at all, which was just good. And actually, since I got sober, I've actually gotten a promotion to full-time, so that's when I consider my real job starting. But I haven't missed a day since that started, and that's important to me. My parents are people who I always saw other adults who they depended on them and they relied on them, and that was something that I wanted to be able to do. And when I was drinking and getting high, that was just something I couldn't be, was responsible and dependable. And to be able to do that now, to know that there's a company out there that trusts me long enough to keep me like in their building for 40 hours a week, and trust that I'm not going to steal anything, it feels pretty good. I guess with that, I'll start. I was born, like most people, at an early age. I was born. I heard another speaker say that somewhere. I wish I could remember who it was so I can credit him. But I was born September the 8th, 1989. I was born in Danville, Virginia, and moved down here when I was 2. And my childhood was really typical. There was no reason whatsoever that I should turn out as messed up as I did, other than me. My parents were great. They both worked. We both had all the money we needed. I never went without food, never went without shelter. It was a great family life. There was no reason whatsoever that I could see of why I would be an alcoholic, other than the fact that that's just who I am. I think maybe when I was born, I had one of those stickers on my feet that said "Some assembly required," maybe, and a piece got lost. And I kind of felt like all growing up there was like a hole right here in my chest somewhere that nobody else could see, but there was something missing that should have been inside of me that I felt like everybody else had, but I didn't, for whatever reason. And I'm trying to think to instances where I really felt disconnected. The point where I really felt like I was different from everybody else is, I guess, when 4th grade started. We moved to a new school, and I lost all my friends, and the new people I was coming into, they were mean, and they picked on me all the time. And my mama still dressed me, so I looked kind of like a 10-year-old golfer, which didn't really fly well in a country school. I was pretty nerdy. I'm still pretty nerdy, but I was really nerdy. I was really bad. I remember in 7th grade, I started hearing about these, I knew what girls were, obviously, and I started realizing that you could interact with them and not feel embarrassed. And, a friend of mine got a girlfriend, and I was like, wait a second. So you're telling me if you ask a girl out and she says yes, then she has to like you no matter what you do. He's like, yeah, yeah. So that sounded good to me, so I tried that out for a little while, and that seemed pretty good. I thought maybe if I could find a girl that would fix me, then that hole wouldn't feel so bad. And that just, I don't know, it was not a good idea. And it wasn't anything like sexual or anything like that. I think the first time I kissed a girl, I almost passed out. It was bad. Just another one of those instances where I felt like everybody else was fine in that kind of situation, but I wasn't. By the time I made it to high school, I felt like I looked normal on the outside, that I had pretty much acclimated myself to the location I was in, but on the inside I felt just as alone and separated and disconnected from everybody else around me. I feel like the main thing to me was I felt like everybody had a best friend, but I didn't have a best friend. I had people I hung out with, I had friends in every location I went to. I had some friends here, I had some friends there, but I didn't feel like I had a best friend. And then it ended up, if I'd be in a location where I'd have a set of friends and they weren't there, I'd feel completely alone. I felt like I wasn't a whole person, that I needed somebody else there at all times, or I wasn't going to be good enough. And, if the people around me, if they looked hard enough and studied me careful enough, they were going to see it too if I didn't hide it. When high school started, I started having a lot of issues with anger, really bad anger. And it started making it so that I couldn't really sleep at night because I'd get so angry and so worried about just pointless stuff. I mean, I was worried about money in like middle school, and I mean, who worries about like their parent? I don't know. That just seems weird to me, that I was worried that 20 years down the line I was going to be living under a bridge somewhere, and like the rest of the kids in my class are like playing with Ninja Turtles and Legos, and but that was what I was worried about, was not being successful enough to like be able to pay rent or own my own house. In middle school, started having trouble sleeping, started using some outside issues to help with that. Nothing big, just like over-the-counter sleeping pills. But, the bottle says take 2 24-hour period at the most. If 2 is good, then 12 is better. The good old alcoholic mentality. And that's kind of where it started, where I started realizing that, or not realizing, where I started thinking that, maybe the reason why everybody else got life and I didn't was because they were using these substances. They were drinking, they were using drugs, they were using pills, and I wasn't, and that was the reason why I didn't get what was going on around me. And that kind of continued a little bit through high school. I mean, nothing really eventful happened. I did get in trouble one time at school. They like charged me, I guess, kind of, sort of, with they thought I was going to bomb the school with a cruise missile because of a drawing. I was like, listen, guys, where am I going to get a cruise missile? I'm 13 years old. I don't think I have access to a cruise missile. It sounds dumb, but that's exactly what happened. I was sitting in the school principal's office, and that's what I was sitting there with the resource guy, and it was just a couple of years after 9/11 happened, so they were really uptight about all sorts of stuff, but I thought that was a bit ridiculous. But that was about the most serious trouble I got into when I was in high school. I went to college. If you couldn't guess, I went to Carolina. I was actually a state fan all my life, and then I got accepted to Carolina, so I had to convert. Because I figure if you're going to give $42,000 to a school, you might as well pull for them. So I started going there, and when I made it to college, it was all bets were off. I got up there, and all of a sudden, I wouldn't say my parents were overly protective, but they were protective at the very least. And all of a sudden, all of that parental guidance was gone. And I was 17 when I went to college, and it was rough. Looking back, I realized I went early. I shouldn't have gone that early, personally. Other people, that might work fine, but I don't know. Maybe things wouldn't have turned out differently. I take that back. It probably would have turned out the same, maybe worse. I don't know. But when I was 17, I was one of about 7 people that went up there, and the other 5 of the other kids I couldn't stand. They were the popular kids. They went out and did whatever they do on the weekends, and I couldn't stand them. So I didn't have any friends going up there. Me and this other girl up there, we got connected, and I come to find out later her mom's a raging alcoholic, so she's like 100% perfect Al-Anon. So the fact that we hung out all the time was, it was match made in heaven. and she tried to help me, and I guess I just wasn't ready at the time. But anyway, I got a roommate, and this is really hypocritical of me, but he was a huge pothead, and I couldn't stand him. I was like, look at him, he gets high every week, or every day, and then on the weekends he goes and gets drunk. He studies on the weekends and drinks beer, and then goes to class on Monday like nothing ever happened, and I'm sitting here, not doing anything except for the pills, and and it's ridiculous. He's getting good grades, and I'm not, and it's just not fair. And that was just reason enough for me to just increase my usage. And by the time the second semester rolled around, I couldn't get out of bed. I pretty much stayed in bed for, I don't know, I think the longest I stayed in my room without leaving it, except just to go to the bathroom across the hall, was maybe a week. And I just didn't want to move. I couldn't move. And I definitely didn't want to go to class. I ended up coming home the second semester. I didn't finish. I dropped out. And I did that for I did that freshman, sophomore, and the freshman, sophomore year. And then junior year, I made it halfway through and then dropped out again. But then when I came back for my senior year, which was actually my junior year because I didn't have enough credit hours I don't even know what I was. I probably had like 5 credit hours after 3 years of being at Carolina. And that pseudo junior year, I turned 21 that September the 8th, 2010. If anybody knows when I was born and that's not right, feel free to keep it to yourself. And I remember I was sitting in my room, and it was my 21st birthday, and I had no plans to do anything, and this girl calls me. It was a friend of mine. And she's like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm doing nothing. She's like, let's go get dinner. I was like, all right. So we got to dinner. I remember I got chicken parmesan, but what it really was chicken fingers with like ketchup on it and some cheese. It was pretty gross. But we're sitting there and we're eating, and then the thought pops in my head, for whatever reason, I don't know why, it'd be cool to go get a drink. I had never drank before in my life, never had any inclination to. I was raised in this church. We're Southern Baptists, we don't talk about drinking. We drink all the time, but we just don't talk about it. So my parents, I didn't think they drank. It turned out later that they had been drinking all my life. I just didn't know it. But I didn't know anything about drinking. But for whatever reason, I was like, let's go get a drink. So I posed this idea to her, and she was all for it. So we went to the ABC store, and she said, pick out a bottle that you like. And I was like, what do you mean pick out? I don't know what the AA, or not the AA, the ABC store in this town was like half the size of this room. I'm like, there's more liquor in here than I've never seen this much liquor. I don't know what to pick. I've never even drank. And she's like, just pick something. So I'm looking around, and the only bottle I recognized in the whole dang store was a bottle of Smirnoff vodka. It was a red bottle, about that tall, glass. It was real cool looking. But the only reason I knew what it was because I just watched James Bond like a couple of nights before, and that's what he was drinking in it. So I was like, if it's good enough for James Bond, I might as well drink it. So we got that. We go up to the counter, and she's paying for it because it's my birthday, and he cards us both. I thought that was cool. I was like, finally get carded, and I'm legal. Like, but I don't know why that was exciting because I never tried to buy it before, but it was. So we went back to my apartment, and it was me and her, and she's a little tiny girl. So she didn't drink hardly anything, maybe 2 or 3 shots, and I drank pretty much the whole rest of that bottle. And something magical happened. For somebody like me who went his entire life thinking that I was different, that there was nothing I could ever do to not feel anxious and scared and alone all the time, when that liquor hit the back of my throat, it was like magic. I mean, that warmth instantly was over me, and within 30 seconds, nothing else mattered except for the people that were in that room. Me and this girl, my 2 roommates had come in. They drank a tiny, tiny bit, and that was probably one of the funnest nights I ever had drinking, and probably the only night I had fun drinking. It was the beginning and end of my social drinking. One day, that's all I had. I was giggling the whole night. I'm not really much of a giggler at all. I don't know if you could tell that, but I'm not. And I just, she's like hugging me, and she's like, I love you, and I'm like, oh, I love you too, and whatever. But I woke up the next morning, and I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't think I was going to hell. Like Nobody said that in this church, but that's what I heard for some reason. If you drink and smoke, you're going to hell. But nobody ever said that. I just heard it. So the very next morning, I went back to that liquor store and bought 2 more and drank them both. And it was an experience. Looking back, I don't think I can count on one hand the number of times I ever had a hangover, the number of times that I threw up while I was drinking. I think throwing up while you're drinking is kind of like a defense mechanism that your body does. It's like, oh, we got too much liquor in us, let's get some of it out. My body's like, no, screw that, we don't have enough. So it just keeps it all in me and doesn't let me puke it up. So, but that's just my personal opinion on that, humble as it may be. And y'all are killing me here, not laughing. So that's pretty much just the way it went, and I think this is a funny story. I don't know if you think it is, I don't care. The liquor store is not centrally located on Carolina's campus. I thought that was a poor design schematic on their part. It's a college campus, why wouldn't it be near? But anyway, the liquor store it wasn't that far off campus, it just took a long time to get there. And probably somebody one day is going to come up to me and be like, hey, if you just gone down this street, you could have got to a liquor store a lot faster. But that's besides the point. I would have to ride the bus down there, and I'd have to catch the U, and the U only came every hour and 30 minutes, and then it would drive down this road and take us to the liquor store. And then you'd have to go in, grab your liquor real quick, and then get back out to the bus stop so you'd catch it on the way back around. Because if you didn't, it was another hour and 30 minutes before the next bus came around. And so the whole trip, round trip, it was like a 3-hour trip, round trip, just to get to the liquor store and back, and it was 10 miles down the road. It was, that's what I had to do, I guess. I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to be like, hey, man, can I get a ride? Yeah, man, where are you going? The liquor store. I don't know about all that. Because I drank alone. After that first night, I don't really remember drinking much with other people. That kind of got in the way. All I wanted to do was get as wasted as possible, as quick as possible, so that I didn't have to feel a single thing that was going on around me. And that hole that I was talking about earlier that I felt inside, it didn't cover it up, but at least when I was drunk, I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to think about all that pain and that hurt and that remorse that I felt all the time. Because the thing for me was the guilt and the remorse from everything I did, literally everything. I felt like I could remember all the things that I had ever done in my life to hurt somebody else or embarrass me or anything like that. And I felt like I remembered everything and everybody else remembered it too. I think it's kind of like Murphy's Law. It's, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. The extended version of that, anything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible time. Everyone will know it and it'll be all your fault. And that's the way I felt pretty much about everything. And, this is kind of one of the stupidest things I remember, but being so scared of was when we were kids, my brother would have to go do his homework with my mom in their room because it took him longer. He had some difficulties with school, but he was really particular about his pencils. I don't know why. But I needed a pencil to do my homework one night, so I borrowed one of his. And I put it in my book bag forgetting that it was his pencil, and I pulled it out the next day, and it was broken in half. And my mom and brother were looking for that pencil, and I was so scared to tell them that I had the pencil and that I broke it. And I don't know why, because I told her a year later and was like, I'm so sorry I broke the pencil. And she's like, I don't care, we had another 500 of them in the back room. But I was terrified of that for a long time, and I don't know why, but that's just one of the things that I kept inside of me and didn't want to tell anybody because I thought that, stupid things like that made me a bad person. And, drinking, I didn't have to think about those things. They just went away until I woke up the next day and realized that I had to get more liquor. If anybody was keeping track, if you look at my sobriety date and look at my birthday for when I turned 21 and took my first drink, I didn't drink for very long. I actually drank less than that. I only drank for just a hair under a year. My last drink was on August 29th of 2010. Or 2011. 2011? Yeah, 2011. Steve, give me a nod or something here. You got a timeline in the book over there? So I drank a little bit under a year. around Christmas of that year from hell, sorry, Wallace, for cussing. Have an aneurysm over there. I told Steve that I was thinking about a story to tell, and I said I don't know if I want to tell it because it might make me cry. And then I thought, well, I'd rather cuss and have Wallace build a resentment at me over it than cry and have Steve pick on me for the next year and a half. But around Christmas of that year, I decided that maybe I was drinking a little bit too much because people didn't want to hang out with me when I was drunk. And I thought that was really weird because I thought I was fun when I was drunk. And I thought that maybe I should cut back. And my family started kind of speculating that I was drinking a little bit too much because, I mean, you shouldn't stay wasted all the time. And but it was the good kind of wasted, just slightly drunk all the time instead of being really drunk for like one day out of the week, which I thought that was real alcoholism. And so around Christmas, I decided to cut back and tapering off. I was tapering off. And I started to see how long I could go without drinking. I didn't make it very long. I made it like a week and a half. That was forever, in my opinion. And then something happened. I don't remember what it was. I probably got a good grade on a test, or more likely got a bad grade on a test, and then got drunk. And that was how, anybody's been an alcoholic at college, that's the way it is. It's like, oh, I got a good grade on a test, better get drunk in celebration. And then the next week it's like, oh, I got a bad grade on a test, better get drunk and forget about it. So, it didn't really matter. It's just either way. But when that week and a half of sobriety ended, I got as drunk as possible, as quick as possible. And by this point, I'd run out of money pretty quick, and I wasn't drinking Smirnoff anymore. I was drinking Aristocrat. And, if you start at Smirnoff, you can only go down from there. I don't think you can get much lower than Aristocrat. It's on the bottom shelf unless they got more stuff in the basement, which they probably do. So I'm drinking Aristocrat, and it's just economical to buy the handle. It's easy to carry. You get more for your money, and I don't think that they put the unit price like they do at the supermarket on alcohol, but I think they should. That would really help, alcoholics on a budget. But after that week and a half, I got drunk, drank pretty much an entire handle of Aristocrat vodka. You might as well just drink rubbing alcohol. And I blacked out for the very first time. That was special. If you haven't blacked out before, I wouldn't suggest it. And I woke up the next day and had absolutely no recollection of anything that happened. I remember starting with a handle, and then I didn't have a handle. And that actually sounded a lot better than But I'm going to write that down when I get home. And I woke up the next day, and nothing really bad happened. Somebody said that I tried to kiss them, and to my dismay, it was a guy. We worked that out in my fifth step, though. But nothing really bad happened, just stupid, college drunk stuff. And I didn't really think anything of it. It was a little scary. Not really that scary. It definitely wasn't enough to stop me from drinking. So I was like, okay, let's just go a little bit longer. So I think I made it to a week, 2 weeks maybe. Did it again, blacked out again. And I'm like, what is the deal with this? Why am I doing this? Waited another couple of weeks, did it again, blacked out. This time woke up, I wasn't wearing any pants, which is a pretty common theme, by the way. So if you ever get drunk with me, watch out. And I woke up without any pants on. I was wearing a white t-shirt and some underwear, and I was in my bed, and the sheets were all messed up. And I look around, there's blood all over the place. I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened? And I thought maybe I was summoning the occult or something, slaughtered a goat in my room. But there's blood on the wall, blood on my shirt, blood all over the bed sheets. There's blood on the floor. There's a lot of blood. So I get up and I start following this blood because it's going somewhere. And it's going around the corner and goes down to my roommate's room. It's just little drops. It's not just The Shining all over the place or something. But I go and beat on his door, and I'm like, hey man, are you alive in there? I honestly thought that I'd killed my roommate in my sleep, or not in my sleep, in a blackout, and that he was just in there dead. And I'm beating on this door, trying to get him to answer me. He's not answering, and I'm just panicking, not even caring that my roommate could be dead in there. I'm worried about what's going to happen to me because I just killed him. And just selfish like that. But he was fine. He was hungover too, and he didn't even know what had happened. Apparently what had happened was I chewed the inside of my lip off. because when I get drunk and black out, I just go crazy. And for whatever reason, I guess I was hungry maybe. And so that was all that was missing on the inside of my lip, and that took a long time to heal. I think the only reason I didn't get an infection was because I was drinking vodka, so it sterilized it. And incidences like that were pretty common. For the next several months, I would wait as long as I could, and then I'd drink as much as I could and black out, and then do something incredibly stupid. I remember waking up one day, and I think I started to realize that there may be something askew with my drinking. And I walked out in the living room, and there was, just chaos. It's like the only way I can describe it. Like, chairs were turned upside down, and like we had like a big cloth screen for a projector TV that was like all torn off the wall, and like there was broken coffee mugs everywhere, and I didn't have to ask what happened. I pretty much assumed that I had done it in some way, shape, or other. And it was destroyed. It took me a long time to get that stuff cleaned up, and I'm just sitting there on the floor like, I was crying, to be honest, and just like, God, why couldn't I be like a normal alcoholic? Why can't I just drink every day and pass out in the corner? Why do I have to black out like this? It's a weird prayer, but that's what I prayed. That's what I felt in my heart. And I'm sitting there trying to get this stuff cleaned up before my roommates come home, so that they don't see it. They had already known they were there, but I didn't realize that. I dropped out again after a couple of months, my second semester, came home, started doing the IOP program over at the hospital. I'd been there a couple of years before for mood disorders. And I got up there again, and I wanted to check back into it for mood disorders. I didn't want to be in there for anything related, any way, shape, or form to alcohol, because I wasn't an alcoholic. I knew alcoholics. My grandmother's an alcoholic. She's an alcoholic. I'm not. They are. I did that for a couple of months. They started suggesting I go to AA meetings, so of course I didn't. And I went to a few here and there. I went to here a couple of times, and by the time August came back around, I was going back for my senior year. It was actually going to be my last semester. I would have graduated, would have been done, finished forever, not have to go back to that awful place. That wonderful school. And I go back to the school. I've got 12 credit hours. That's what I had. That's what I was scheduled for. And they were all electives except for 2 classes. One of them I'd already taken, so I was just retaking it. And the other one was just a little short 2-hour course. I thought, this is going to be it. This is going to be great. I've accepted my alcoholism at this point, that I'm an alcoholic. I've gone through this IOP program, and that's cured me. I'm now not an alcoholic. I was an alcoholic. Now I'm not. And I don't have to go to AA meetings because that's just ridiculous. And I go back to school. I get into a new dorm, new roommates, because my old roommates had it with me, surprisingly. And I think I made it, started at the beginning of August. I made it to the 29th of August. School started like the 8th or something. And I had been sober about 2.5 months. And it was a Friday. It was the first day that I'd been up there that my girlfriend and me didn't hang out together. And I'm sitting there in my room all by myself, and I was like, I've done such a great job. I think I should celebrate. So I did my little 3-hour trip to the ABC store, got a handle of Aristocrat vodka, went back to the dorm, drank it all, woke up the next morning handcuffed to a bed in the ER at Chapel Hill. And this wasn't the first time I'd wound up there. Several other times on the blackouts, I'd wound up in the ER and didn't know how I got there. But of course, that was my roommate's fault for calling the EMS, not mine for getting so drunk that they had to send me up there and get my stomach pumped and hang a banana bag to try to keep me from ODing. I woke up there one day, and the doctor comes over, or the nurse, or whoever it was, I don't remember, comes over with like a piece of paper, and they're like, Mr. Purser, edit that out, please. And your liver enzymes are rising. I was like, that sounds good, right? Rising, good. They're like, no, that's bad. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know. So I find out that I had gotten drunk that night in August 29th, and I blacked out. I had kicked in my new roommate's door, and that was the first time we'd ever met. I figured I ought to introduce myself. So kicked it in, and then promptly sat down in the middle of his floor. He kept yelling at me, apparently, to get out. And I was like, no, this is my room, which technically it was because that was where I stayed last year. They just moved me down. So if they had just left me in that room to begin with, this event wouldn't have happened. Everybody else's fault, not mine. And, the cops, of course, were called. And the school told me, or the housing, this is how crazy the bureaucracy is at one of these universities. I get a call from housing. Housing is like, you're not allowed back on campus or on the housing premises. You need to get your stuff out by such and such time. You can't stay here. It's like, okay. So then I get a call a couple of days later from the police, and the police are like, oh, by the way, we have a warrant out for you, just to let you know. So I had to go back up there and handle that. And then like a couple of weeks later on my birthday, the cops show up at my door serving me a warrant that I had gone up there to serve. I think they just wanted to give me a birthday present. And then I get a call a couple of weeks later from the school telling me that I need to come back up for an honor hearing where they basically tell me that I'm indefinitely suspended, which is permanently, until I go back up there and do the things that they asked me to do to make amends to the school. I did pay for the door. I did apologize one-on-one to the roommate involved. He didn't like me for some reason. And, so that's that. I got back home and I got connected in with this group. I started attending this meeting. I didn't get connected. I bounced around for a couple of months, ended up at detox for, I slipped my wrists and tried to kill myself, and obviously. And, when I got out, I came here again, still didn't really listen. I think I got a sponsor at that point, I'm not sure. I got one, I didn't listen to him. There's a difference there, apparently. I thought it was enough that I would just be like, have you got a sponsor? Yeah, I got a sponsor. He's somewhere over there. And this is kind of where, this is like a rough time for me. Like all the other stuff was just, it was easier to deal with. I had alcohol to deal with it. Alcohol was making my life unmanageable, but at least it made me numb 90% of the time. I didn't have to think about it. At this point, I'm not drinking. My last drink was August 29th, but I didn't get sober until the end of December. So from August 29th to December 29th, there's a nice symmetry there. I lived in hell. I was still the same messed up person with that gaping hole in my chest where I felt like the things that I had been cramming down in there to try to cover it up, the girls, the pills, the drugs, the alcohol, none of that was there anymore. And it was just me standing I felt like I was standing just completely naked in the middle of Main Street. Everybody's pointing at me and laughing. And, I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I wasn't doing what was suggested of me. I wasn't going to meetings. I wasn't listening to my sponsor. I wasn't calling him every day. Wasn't doing anything. December 29th, I just had enough. And I went home and took every pill that we had in the house and just was ready to die. I went to bed thinking that I wasn't going to wake up. I got up around midnight. I don't remember anything after that for the next 3 days. I woke up I came to in detox. And I was just standing there in the main room. This is the first memory I had, was standing in the main room, watching TV, and we were watching the ball drop. And I don't remember how I got from my bathroom at midnight 3 days before to that room at the hospital watching the ball drop. And that was scary. And that was like, for me, it was, I don't think it was the point where I realized that my life was unmanageable, but it was pretty close. I was like, normal people, this doesn't happen to. So I got out and I called my sponsor and I told him what had happened, and he was all offended. He was like, listen, what would have happened if I had to go back to the group and tell the group that my sponsee killed himself on my watch? How does that make me look? And I told that one time, and he said it jokingly, and then afterwards he said, I was dead serious. I think he was joking about that too. So I got back in here and, like Steve said, I had been smoking pot a little bit, between the August and the December, but I didn't want to really admit anything to it. We were sitting down one day after December, it was in January at some point, and he said, I don't want to tell you what to do, but, if it were me or something along those lines, I would pick up another white chip. Because, if we're going to be sober, we need to be free from all mood-altering substances. And I was like, yeah, but it was just a one-time, whatever. He's like, okay, I just don't want you to get, 6 months down the line, and then you hear some speaker say something about being free from all mood-altering substances, including pot, pills, and he said that to me, and I was like, okay, whatever. So 6 months later, I'm sitting in a speaker meeting, and the speaker gets up and says he's been free from pot, pills, and alcohol for all this time. And I'm just like, wonderful. So, yeah, so there's that. So I finally got honest about that. And just sitting around in these rooms long enough, I think that happens to us. But, early sobriety wasn't easy at all. And I don't think it was ever said it was going to be. I think coming into these rooms, I thought that I'm watching the clock, Brad. I think coming into these rooms, I thought that I was going to get sober, and the girlfriend was going to come back, and my parents are going to respect me and love me again, and all the stuff with the cops is going to go away. But I guess it goes back to all that stuff I heard as a kid. Nobody ever said it. I just heard it for some reason. I heard all those things, but nobody ever said it, and that was kind of disappointing. And when I hit 6 months, and a lot of that stuff still hadn't happened, I got really discouraged, and I was like, this is ridiculous. If this is the way it's going to be, I can just go drink. But I talked with my sponsor, and he helped me through that. And sobriety in the end is a heck of a lot better than it is being out there drunk every day. The thing for me is, I hear not people in the rooms, but people talk about the reasons why they do the things they do. Somebody robbed a bank because their mom didn't breastfeed them until they were like 7 or something. I don't know, something stupid like that. And I look back and I can't blame my parents for anything. I can't blame really anybody in my life for anything that happened to me. The only person I blame, I think, is me, and that's just because it's just my life. And I don't say that with any kind of self-loathing or regret or remorse on it. I just think it's me owning up to the things that I did, the things that I did while I was on drugs, while I was on alcohol, and I can live with myself with that, because before I couldn't. I drank for oblivion. I drank to not have to feel all that regret and that remorse, and I thought that if I had to stay sober every single stinking day for the rest of my life, and I still had to feel all this shame and this regret, you can forget that. That was the last thing on my mind, was not drinking every day when I came into this program. I can't describe to you how much that was not going to be the game plan for me when I came into AA. It was not going to be not drinking for the rest of my life. It was going to be not drinking long enough to get everybody off my back, and then I was going to go get plastered. But this program has done so much more for me than I ever could imagine if I just let it. I came in with all those prejudices, and I thought that the program worked one way, and it worked a completely different way. I heard somebody say one time when I was a kid, he's like, you want to hear a joke? I was like, sure. He's like, how do you make God laugh? I was like, I don't know. He said, you make a plan. And, I like that. It's cute and it's clever, but, all the times that I came up with something in my head, all the times I was disappointed with how things turned out, or every time I was regretful of what happened, it was when I had some idea in my head and then it didn't work out because that just wasn't the way it was supposed to work out. Today I may still get a little bent out of shape if something I come up with doesn't work, because I think it's the best plan ever. But I can deal with it now. I don't have to deal with feeling like it's a reflection on me that I failed. It just was a terrible idea. That's just what it is, 100%. But let's see. I bought this suit all by myself now. That's something I never did before. I just would keep telling my parents that I needed a new suit long enough until they got tired of hearing me say it, and they would take me shopping. But I went all by myself, got my big boy pants. Everything I'm wearing is mine. I own it all. The only thing that I didn't buy were the shoes. They were a Christmas present, but I was going to buy them until my mom told me not to. And I didn't buy the new suit for you guys. I just couldn't fit in the other one because I've gotten too fat. This is another thing. It may not be much to anybody else, but this is important to me. This is the most I have ever weighed ever in my entire life. But this is the most comfortable I've ever been in my life. Before I was always, when I graduated high school, I was 145 pounds. When I left school my sophomore year, I weighed 120 pounds. Pills will do that to you. I was living off Pop-Tarts, pills, and Mountain Dew. It was great. That's when the seizures started too, if you're interested. I had my first seizure, and they called the paramedics up there, and I was on the third floor of a dorm that didn't have elevators. So they bring 3 fire trucks, 2 ambulances, and a cop, and that's not an exaggeration. That's what they brought. And I guess they were thinking I was going to be like some fat whale just up there at the top of the stairs that they were going to have to lug down. They didn't expect to get up there and see a little 120-pound kid. Like, one guy just threw me over his shoulder and carried me down the stairs. But that was why I was still using. And even that, as sick as that was, I felt comfortable. I felt good because I was skinny, really skinny. And I like the attention that kind of situation brought. Everybody's like, oh, you had a seizure, what happened? I saw the paramedics carry you down. It's like, oh yeah, just, it's hard. Just anything to get attention. That kind of attention I felt was good. It was just sick. But while I was getting dressed today, I was actually listening to, this is honest to God truth, I was listening to Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top. That was how I was getting spiritual. Let's see. I try to do, like I said earlier, I try to do whenever AA asks me to do something, I try to always be there for them. If I get a call saying, hey, I need a ride, can you come pick me up? If I'm not doing anything, yeah, I'll come pick you up. Sounds good. And by not doing anything, I mean not working. If I'm at home, clipping my nails or something, I need to stop doing that and go help somebody. Somebody asks me to speak, I will sadly say yes. And, if service work for me, getting started in that, Steve would just ask me, he's like, hey, you want to go to Samaritan Colony? He's like, I don't know what that is, but let's go. So I'd go down there with him, and I've gone down there a lot, and I really enjoy it. I like seeing, I didn't go through treatment, and, a lot of guys do go through treatment, but that just wasn't my story. But I really enjoy going down there and seeing guys, and it's like Steve said, nothing will so much ensure an immunity from drinking like intensive work with other alcoholics. This works when all else fails. And that's really been the way it is for me, and just been enjoying that, working with the intergroup. I really love doing that. It's fun. We have a lot of fun down there, and I think we get work done. We get work done, don't we? I think so. Karen makes us get work done. Helping out, and I think I greeted for the first 6 months of my sobriety. I just stood down there by the door. I didn't really know where else to go. But I enjoyed it. It helps me learn names. I'm terrible with names. So if you ever come up to me and shake my hand and say, hi, I'm such and such, and I don't remember you, it's not you. It's because I smoked too much pot. Or drank too much vodka, whichever way you look at it. So I'm running out of time. So I think, for me, the big things for sobriety, the things that were suggested of me, the things that I did that I think helped me were, I got a home group. And not only got a home group, I didn't just sign my name to the paper. I worked with them. I went every time the doors were open. I was there. I came early. I left late. And that for me, at least for 2 hours, I wasn't drinking. But it kept me accountable because if I didn't come to a meeting, I usually got a text the next day saying, hey man, where were you? Or somebody called me saying, hey, what's up? I didn't see you there. You're usually there. Helping set up before a meeting. I still enjoy doing that. I've set up a lot of chairs. Tom said he's set up more chairs than anybody, but we'll have a race one day. Making coffee, just it's fun. Reading before the meeting, that's the stuff that I enjoy doing. And I never thought that I would say that I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. It doesn't sound very enjoyable. And, people ask me nowadays, they're like, if they see me after like a year, they're like, what are you doing nowadays? I'm like, oh, just working. Oh, you got to do something else other than that. Yeah, just pretty much working. I got a meeting I go to. They're like, oh, what kind of meeting? None of your business. But that's really what I do, and I do enjoy it. I go to work, and then I come to a meeting, and I heard somebody say one time, it's you can stop going to meetings when you want to go to meetings, and I want to go to meetings now. Before it was like forcing myself to go, but now it's, this is where I feel comfortable now. This is where I found people that are like-minded. I was sitting here thinking, or not sitting here, but I wish y'all had heard me last time I spoke. It was a great speech. Nobody was there because it was in my shower earlier today. But I heard somebody say one time, I forgot it now, so I wasn't supposed to say it. Anyway, I heard somebody say this one time, and I like this, and I think it's a good reflection of alcoholism. There's a scorpion and a frog sitting on the side of a creek, and the creek starts rising. The scorpion looks to the frog and says, I need to get across or I'm going to drown. Can you let me on your back? And the frog says, no, if I let you on my back, you'll sting me and I'll die. The scorpion says, no, I can't sting you because if I sting you, I'll drown and we'll both die. So the frog says, okay, that makes sense. So they get going across. The scorpion's on the frog's back. About halfway across, the scorpion stings the frog, and the frog starts to die. The frog says, what are you doing? Now we're both going to die. I'm going to die and you're going to drown. And the scorpion says, I can't help it. It's in my nature. I think that's the way it was for me with alcoholism. I sat there in front of many a friend, a family member, and they looked at me and said, why do you do this? Why do you keep doing this? And I say, I don't know. I can't explain it, but it's just the way it is. But that's not the way it has to be. And I'm glad that I found this program, and then this program got me connected with great guys like Steve, Tom, Brad, Ryan, Mike. I could just go on and on. Everybody in this room has helped me in some way or another. And, I see God in all of you people. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up before Brad crucifies me. So thank you for letting me come up here and share. Thank you for enduring it. Y'all have a nice night.